Every day they stand like statues, silent, unflinching, sworn to never break character. But what happens in those rare, tender moments when duty meets humanity? Imagine this: a tiny girl, no taller than a guardsman's knee, shyly clutching a small teddy bear as the towering Scottish guard marches past. She stretches her hand, just hoping, dreaming, for a nod, a smile, a tiny acknowledgement from the man in the bearskin hat. And then, something magical happens. Not discipline, but heart. Not rigid tradition, but pure kindness. Now picture another scene. A young girl in a wheelchair watching the changing of the guard. People rush, cameras rise, and she worries she won't see a thing, until one guard quietly steps forward, and everything changes. Royal guards are trained never to move for emotion. Yet in these moments, emotion moved them. These aren't just viral clips. They're reminders that behind the immovable hats beat real human hearts. If you love real-life royal moments like this, not scandals, not drama, just pure humanity, stick around, tap like, maybe subscribe if you feel like joining our royal family here. And hey, share this with someone who needs a reminder that kindness still lives in the world. All right, let's get into the moments that warmed hearts across the globe. London mornings have a way of mixing history with the hum of modern life. Horse hooves on cobblestones, camera clicks, the shuffle of tourists wrapped in scarves, all beneath the towering gates of Buckingham Palace. And there, at the heart of this grand scene, stood the Queen's Guard, motionless as ever, tall, imposing, unshakable, a symbol of discipline older than living memory. People always arrive expecting grandeur, expecting power, but no one ever expects tenderness from men trained to be emotional stone. On this particular morning, the crowds buzzed like beehives. Children tugged at parents' coats, hoping to catch that iconic march. The boots, the drums, the rhythmic thunder that seems to echo off the very sky. But tucked among them stood one tiny soul, barely 5 years old, gripping a soft, worn teddy bear whose fur had seen 1,000 bedtime stories. Her name, Scarlett. Her teddy, Mr. Buttons. Her wish, beautifully simple, to give her bear a small salute to the guard she'd traveled across countries to see. She had watched videos online, pointing excitedly every time a guard moved his rifle, every time boots stomped in harmony. To her, they weren't just guards. They were living heroes, knights, soldiers of fairy tale gates, protectors of kings and queens. And today, she was determined to be brave like them. The marching began, slow, precise, mesmerizing. Guards in crimson coats and tall bearskin helmets moved like a single heartbeat. The crowd lifted their phones like a wave rising, murmurs turning into gasps of admiration. But Scarlett didn't lift a phone. Her tiny hand simply tightened around Mr. Buttons as she took one cautious step forward, then another, and another. Her mother whispered, "Scarlett, stay close." But there was something magnetic pulling her, the innocent courage only childhood understands. She reached the rope barrier, heart thumping like tiny drums of her own. The guard passed. Broad shoulders, polished buttons glinting like stars, face unreadable. His eyes, beneath that shadowy black fur, seemed fixed straight ahead on duty and honor, and centuries of protocol. Scarlett, trembling with shy excitement, slowly lifted Mr. Buttons into the air, as if presenting a royal gift. For a moment, the world felt quiet, surreal, as though even the palace itself paused to see what this tiny girl with wild curls and determined eyes wanted to do. The guard marched past. No reaction, not a flicker, nothing. Her small smile faltered. Mr. Buttons drooped in her hand. You know that moment, when a child's faith in magic begins to flicker? It's quiet. It's almost invisible. But if you look close enough, you can see the heart begin to question the world. Scarlett took a tiny step back. Her lip trembled. Her mom kneeled, whispering, "Sweetheart, they don't always react. But he saw you, I promise." And then, suddenly, boots stopped. A subtle halt, so small most adults missed it. But Scarlet noticed. Her eyes widened, the kind of widening that only innocent hope can produce. The guard, silent, fierce in stature, turned his head ever so slightly. Barely a movement, but in the world of the Royal Guard it was monumental. His eyes flicked down, not stern, not cold, but soft.
A hush fell.
The kind of softness a soldier rarely lets slip into
A
daylight.
tourist gasped.
He didn't speak.
Another whispered.
He didn't
Did you
smile.
see that?
But he lowered
Phones
his rifle.
lowered, but for once
The
it wasn't
tiniest
about
gesture,
recording. It was
like
about
a salute
feeling.
returned.
Scarlet froze, stunned. Then her face lit up like Christmas morning. She hugged Mr. Buttons tight enough to wrinkle his fur. Children don't need full smiles or words to understand kindness. Their hearts are translators no world language can match. The guard resumed position, posture stiff, composure restored. But something in the air had shifted, subtle and warm, like a secret the palace walls were proud to keep. Scarlet didn't move for a second. She just stared with the sacred, awe children reserve for bravery and goodness. Then, almost whispering through excitement too big for her chest, she said, "He said hello." Her mom smiled, you know the kind, where eyes glisten but lips try to stay steady. "Yes, my love." In his way, he did. Nearby tourists argued softly. Guards don't break character. Are they allowed to do that? That kid must be special. But this wasn't about rules. This was about humanity finding the tiniest doorway in centuries of tradition and stepping through without fanfare. No dramatic music, no official announcement, just a small girl, a tired teddy bear, and a soldier who remembered, just for one heartbeat. That kindness isn't weakness. Scarlet didn't know about protocols or royal discipline. She didn't know the guard would probably receive a quiet note, later reminding him of restraint. She didn't understand what centuries of stoic duty meant. She just knew someone saw her, really saw her. As other children tugged their parents closer, hoping for magic of their own, Scarlet squeezed her bear and whispered, "He's brave like Daddy." That's the thing about these moments. They never feel big when they happen. Only later, when you retell them, do they shimmer. And in a world where strength is often mistaken for silence, this was strength choosing gentleness instead. When the march ended and crowds drifted, Scarlet looked back once, as if hoping she might catch one more flicker of human warmth under that giant bearskin hat. But the guard stood motionless again, a marble statue in the winter sun. And yet, everyone who saw it walked away knowing they had witnessed something rare, almost sacred. A reminder, even the most disciplined uniforms sometimes hide hearts that beat louder than protocol. Because sometimes it's not the grand gestures that define us, but the quiet ones. Crowds outside Buckingham Palace don't just gather. They swell like living oceans. On busy days, it's not just tourists, it's dreamers. People hoping to witness a royal carriage, hear a drum roll, or simply touch a piece of history. Yet sometimes, history happens not in the grand gestures, but in the quiet corners where only a few are watching. On this particular afternoon, the sky held that soft London gray, neither gloomy nor bright, just gentle. And tucked at the edge of the crowd sat a young girl named Ella, bundled in a blue jacket, her hair neatly braided, her wheelchair positioned carefully along the rope line. Beside her stood her father, one hand resting protectively on her shoulder, the other shielding her from the moving wave of eager tourists, squeezing forward with phones lifted high. Ella loved the royal guards. To her, they weren't just soldiers. They were giants of courage, protectors who stood so still that even fairy tales felt real. She'd dreamed of seeing the changing of the guard for years, whispering to stuffed animals that one day she'd sit right there, in front of the palace, watching boots strike the ground like thunder. But reality, as it often does, came with challenges. Adults didn't notice her height, or rather, her lack of it. People leaned forward, stepping in front. Phones rose like towers. Excitement drowned awareness. And slowly, Ella's view began to disappear behind coats and elbows and brawbacks. She didn't complain. She just held the armrest of her wheelchair tighter and tried to lean to the side, peeking between strangers' legs, hoping for a glimpse of scarlet uniforms and polished boots. Her father bent down, voice hushed, trying to hide worry under warmth. "Do you want me to lift you, sweetheart?" Ella shook her head. She didn't want special treatment. She wanted to see like everyone else, to be part of the world, not separate from it. But as the drums approached and the rhythms grew louder, bold, proud, echoing against palace stone, Ella realized she couldn't see a thing. And her heart sank. She wasn't angry. She wasn't jealous. She just felt that familiar ache, the soft sting of being left behind by accident, not cruelty. A quiet pain many never notice, yet those who live it never forget. Then came the moment. Boots, drum beats, silence before movement. The guards marched out tall, synchronized, stoic. The crowd leaned forward, and Ella's world turned into a moving wall of backs. Hope slipped from her eyes, just a little, and that's when one guard noticed. Just like Scarlett's story, this moment didn't start with fanfare. It began with awareness. A flicker, a tiny shift of attention beneath a towering bearskin hat. He saw her, not as a blur in a crowd, not as a forgotten figure at the mercy of eager tourists, but as a little girl who came with a heart full of dreams and deserved to see them unfold. Rules say they look forward. Rules say they don't react. Rules say there's duty and nothing beyond it. But sometimes, humanity whispers louder than any rulebook. With a precision almost invisible to the untrained eye, the guard shifted one step, then another, not breaking formation, merely adjusting, positioning himself at an angle that subtly guided the crowd without a word. His ceremonial rifle moved just enough to signal authority, not aggression, not force, just presence. And then, with one sweeping arm, slow, controlled, dignified, he gestured the people in front of Ella to shift aside. He never spoke. He didn't smile. He didn't do anything dramatic. Yet the crowd parted like curtains drawn open to reveal a stage. And there she was, suddenly with a perfect view, front and center, eyes widening so fast they sparkled. Ella froze in disbelief before her father whispered, "He saw you, Ellie." And her breath caught, the kind of breath a child takes when reality gives them a gift they thought only dreams could deliver. She sat taller, as if her chair suddenly rose, not physically, but in spirit. Pride flooded her small frame. She looked at the guard, then at the marching boots, then back again, soaking in a moment she would remember for the rest of her life. You know those moments that don't need applause to be monumental? This was one. Other tourists suddenly noticed. Phones lowered. A couple wiped tears. One man whispered, "That's class. That's real class." It wasn't just a soldier moving. It was a message. Kindness doesn't weaken duty. It strengthens dignity. Ella lifted her hand in a tiny wave, hesitant, like she was scared to break a rule. The guard didn't wave back, but there was something in the stillness, a quiet acknowledgement, a bridge between honor and heart. When the ceremony ended and crowds drifted away, Ella stared at the palace like she'd been blessed by royalty itself. Her dad leaned down, forehead touching hers. Not everyone gets a moment like that, he whispered, and she replied, voice trembling with pride, "Because I was brave to come." Sometimes bravery is not loud. Sometimes it's simply showing up in a world not built to notice you, and holding on to hope anyway. The tourists dispersed. The palace gates stood proud. The guards resumed their perfect silence. But one little girl rolled away knowing she mattered, that even in a sea of thousands, someone saw her, respected her, honored her presence. That's the thing about true strength. It doesn't need to roar. Sometimes it speaks in a single gesture that lifts a child's spirit higher than any throne ever could. And long after uniforms fade and cameras turn away, moments like this live on, not as viral clips or headlines, but as quiet proof that kindness still stands guard in this world. Tradition, discipline, majesty. Those are the words most people think of when they picture the royal guards. The towering bearskin hats, the ceremonial rifles, the precision so flawless that even the wind seems to hold its breath when they march. For centuries, these soldiers have embodied the idea that duty is unbreakable, emotion is private, and composure must never crack. Not under pressure, not under curiosity, not under chaos. And yet, in the smallest, quietest moments, they remind us that humanity is not erased by discipline, only refined by it. Why does it matter when a guard steps slightly aside for a child? Why does a tiny nod, a silent gesture, feel so powerful? Because these acts happen where emotion isn't expected, where softness isn't required, where kindness isn't demanded by duty, but chosen by heart. That's what transforms a small gesture into something monumental, a role built on restraint. To truly understand the weight of these gentle moments, you have to understand the world behind the uniform. Royal Guards aren't just performers for tourists. They're fully trained soldiers. Many serve in active combat units. Many have stood in war zones long before they stood outside palace gates. Their job at Buckingham Palace or Windsor Castle isn't entertainment. It's protection. Their stillness isn't silence. It's readiness. Every fiber of their training says, hold the line, maintain discipline, never break composure. Imagine carrying that responsibility every second of your shift. Imagine having cameras inches from your face. People testing you, mocking you, shouting to make you react. Phones recording, waiting for a mistake. Yet you must remain still, neutral, stronger than curiosity, stronger than irritation, stronger even than instinct. That is their norm. So when a guard chooses kindness, even a subtle kindness, it isn't casual. It's deliberate. It's earned. It's remarkable. Discipline doesn't cancel emotion. It proves it. Think about strength for a moment. Real strength isn't loud. It doesn't need to force itself. It doesn't exist to intimidate. True strength can stand firm and still make room for gentleness. When we watch a royal guard pause or shift for a child, we witness something rare. Strength choosing compassion. Authority choosing humility. Duty choosing humanity. And perhaps that is why these moments resonate so deeply online. Not because they are viral, but because they are real. No script, no performance, just instinct, the instinct to care. People don't cry watching these clips because they're dramatic. They cry because they are sincere. In a world where noise often overshadows kindness, small human acts feel like miracles. The history behind the silence. There's a reason these gestures shock people. The origin of the Royal Guards goes back over 350 years. Their duty has always been simple in statement, but massive in responsibility. Protect the sovereign at all costs. Show no vulnerability. Represent the crown with complete discipline. Centuries of honor. Centuries of expectation. Centuries of holding still for kings, queens, and history itself. So when a guard shifts for a wheelchair or acknowledges a little girl, they're not breaking tradition. They're elevating it. They're proving that tradition doesn't have to lock out humanity. It can frame it, amplify it, honor it. A soldier who can command stillness has discipline. A soldier who can break stillness for kindness has character. And character outlasts ceremony every time. The impact on the people who witness it. For Scarlett with her teddy bear, it wasn't a soldier turning his head. It was magic. For Ella in her wheelchair, it wasn't a formation adjustment. It was dignity. And for everyone watching, whether in person or through a screen, it becomes a reminder. Small kindnesses are not small. They stay. They matter. They ripple outwards. Every time someone sees a guard protect a child's moment, they remember. A soldier didn't have to care, but he did. A tradition didn't have to bend, but it did. A world that often feels cold revealed warmth. And suddenly, strangers become softer. Hearts reopen. Cynicism pauses. Because kindness is contagious, especially when it comes from where we least expect it. Why viral isn't the point. People love to label everything viral these days. Clips of guards like these get millions of views, yes, but views aren't the point. No guard wakes up thinking, let's make the internet cry today. They don't do it for cameras. They don't do it for applause. They do it because their instinct in that second, louder than protocol, was compassion. And when kindness is instinct, not performance, it changes people. It changed Scarlett. It empowered Ella. It gave hope to thousands who watched. Sometimes seeing someone choose empathy in a strict, disciplined world reminds us that softness isn't weakness. It's courage. Quiet courage, the rarest kind. Why these moments stay with us. You might forget a news headline. You might forget a celebrity scandal. You might forget 1,000 loud things the world throws at you. But you don't forget the time you saw a soldier kneel to comfort a crying child, or a guard shift so a girl in a wheelchair could see, or a uniformed man return the smallest, proudest teddy bear salute. Those things sit quietly in your heart, like a warm ember, because deep down, we all crave proof that humanity still breathes inside institutions. That honor doesn't erase empathy, that in even the strictest traditions, love can find a doorway. And maybe that is why these moments matter, more than rules, more than protocol, more than ceremony. They remind us, kindness can exist anywhere, even where it's least expected, especially where it's least expected. And sometimes the strongest guards are the ones who let their heart guard someone else just for a moment. Some moments in life don't need trumpets or headlines. Some heroes don't hold swords or wear crowns. Sometimes courage looks like stillness, and kindness looks like the smallest movement in the world. A step to the side, a tilt of the head, a gentle gesture that says, "I see you." That's all it took for Scarlett with her teddy bear. That's all it took for Ella in her wheelchair. And yet, that tiny kindness carved itself deep into the hearts of everyone who saw it. The world didn't pause because a guard made a huge speech or grand romantic gesture. It paused because strength, real strength, revealed something quiet beneath its armor. Humanity, a tradition that breathes. For generations, royal guards have stood as symbols of unshakable duty. They protect palaces, history, heritage, and in a symbolic way, the heart of a nation. But the greatest traditions are not the ones frozen in time. They're the ones that hold their core, yet leave room for humanity to live within them. Think about it. A soldier who never flinches may be impressive, but a soldier who chooses when to bend, when to soften, becomes unforgettable. The world remembers power, but it cherishes empathy. And that's why those tiny guard moments echo far louder than the boots, the drums, and the clicking cameras around them. Because tradition alone earns respect, but tradition with humanity earns hearts. Invisible courage. It takes courage to show emotion where the world tells you not to. Imagine being in that uniform, knowing you represent centuries of discipline, knowing thousands of eyes, cameras, and phones are waiting for the tiniest mistake, knowing a single gesture could be questioned, analyzed, judged, and still deciding, this child deserves to feel seen. This moment matters. Rules are important, but kindness is not weakness. That isn't breaking character. That's revealing character. And it's so easy to underestimate that, because kindness isn't always loud or dramatic. Often, it's a whisper, easy to miss if your heart isn't quiet enough to listen. Why these stories spread? At first glance, they seem like small moments. A nod, a shift, a gesture of respect. But people share them for a reason. We crave them. We cling to them. Why? Because we live in a world where people rush. People forget to look up. People get lost in screens and expectations and noise. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, we see a soldier trained to stand emotionless, make space for a child. And our hearts exhale. We remember what matters. We remember what lasts. It's not perfection. It's connection. A message bigger than the palace. Scarlett learned something that day. Heroes notice the smallest among us. Ella learned something that day. The world hasn't forgotten her, and neither has kindness. And the rest of us? We learned that even in the stiffest, most formal traditions, the human heart still beats. These guards didn't set out to change anyone's life. Yet they did, not with power, but with presence. Not with noise, but with thoughtfulness. Not by breaking duty, but by expanding it. Because the greatest duty we have isn't to rules, it's to one another. What we can take with us. Not all of us wear uniforms. Not all of us stand outside palaces. Not all of us march in perfect rhythm or protect monarchs. But every single one of us can be somebody's guard for a moment. Not with rifles, not with boots, but with presence and awareness. You see a child being overlooked? Make space. You see someone struggling? Step gently toward them. You notice someone feeling small? Lift the moment, just an inch in their favor. Because real honor isn't about being untouchable. It's about being unafraid to care. And here's the truth. Most acts of kindness will never be filmed. Most will never go viral. Most won't be remembered by millions. But they will be remembered by one. And sometimes changing one life or one moment in one life is more lasting than changing the world in theory. Final reflection. We often chase big stories. We look for wonders, miracles, headlines, applause. But sometimes the most powerful thing in the world is a quiet act of recognition. A soldier bending tradition for a heartbeat. A hand shifting slightly to clear view. A glance that tells a child, I see you. You matter. And long after palaces crumble, and boots stop marching, and the world changes in ways we can't yet imagine, kindness like this will remain. Because kindness never belongs to one era, one crown, one uniform, one nation. It belongs to humanity. So as you finish this story, ask yourself, where can I be someone's quiet hero today? Where can I make room? Where can I soften when the world expects hardness? Small gestures build great legacies, just like the royal guards, not recorded in their manual, but written in the hearts of those who witnessed them. And maybe that's the truest form of honor there is. White Heavy Checkmark series complete. Thank you for watching and reading. If this story touched your heart, take a second to speech balloon, leave a comment. Who do you want to thank for quiet kindness in your life? Thumbs up, give a like. It tells the algorithm kindness matters. Bell subscribe for more true, human royal stories. Not gossip, not noise, just heart. Raising hands and share this with someone who could use a little light today. You never know. You might just be the guard in their story.